friends, welcome back to Kowalski Mountain. I'm Barbara Sue. I am the author of the blog KowalskiMountain.com. Today we have an exciting video. This year I planted something in my garden just for fun, and that was Luffa Gourds. Now, if you're like me, I thought that sponges came from the ocean. I had no idea they came from a plant. When I found that out, I decided I wanted to give it a try. And so this year was the year to do it. Now the end result is going to be a sponge. I've only done one so far. You can see the center of the sponge. And after it's dried and been cleaned, this is what we're left with. And it's been a really cool project. Now I can't wait to harvest these large ones to see how big these sponges are. Now Philip and I are in transition and we have a container garden, and this has been very prolific in the container garden. In fact, it's one of the most productive items I've had in the garden this year. Now I started with just 4 plants in one large pot, and I added a simple trellis that I made, and I'm going to link that up here on the video on how I created the trellises for you. They're very easy. They were made with things right here at the house, no expense. Now thankfully the Luffa gourd has actually grabbed a hold of the frame up here, because this plant has grown so much and the gourds are so heavy that it would pull over my DIY trellis. So let's take a closer look. Now these gourds are being planted in a simple pot, and there's only 4 plants in this pot, and it has just taken off. You can see all the vines headed over that way, and it's covered with loofahs. We've got some here. There's about 3 right there. It's still blossoming. Whoops, now that one is not open, but you can see the flower clusters and the flowers open on that. You can see that the insects are really starting to get this. However, the loofahs are still thriving. Here's a large one up in there. A cluster of them in there. Now I have one loofah that is starting to turn. So this one right here is starting to yellow. And what we're going to do is we're just going to let this turn brown. It begins drying, and once it gets completely brown, it'll be time to pick it. Now if the weather changes and we need to pick them early, it's okay. They will take longer to dry that way, and of course they stop growing at that point as well. But if the weather changes and you need to take them down quickly, you can cut them before they're completely brown. But this one is starting to turn, so it's going to be our next one that's ready. Now ultimately, we're waiting for the loofahs to turn brown like these. Now these 2 have been picked for a couple of weeks. I let them turn brown, and they were still a little bit soft to the touch, but I've left them in the house and I've just allowed them to dry. Now we do have a dehumidifier because we live in an RV in Florida, and the dehumidifier is just better for the moisture management in the RV. So it's not necessary, but we do have one running. Now it's not been an easy task to get this camera and equipment through this jungle of grapes and loofahs. But you can see that the loofahs are still actively blooming. So we're in August at this point, mid-August, and much of my garden has been pulled out. There's not a lot left, but the loofah is thriving in the summer heat. So I've got lots of blossoms, and each one of these has a cluster on them that can develop into flowers. Now this is the female flower of the Luffa gourd, and you can see the long baby fruit of the gourd. Now that's actually the ovary of the flower, and of course when that opens, then it can be fertilized to grow into a loofah. That is a female flower. You can see the baby fruit. The gorgeous yellow blossom. And it's way at the top of the loofah. Now the male flowers come in these interesting clusters. And you see the single flower that's starting to open, and you notice there's no baby fruit at the end of that flower. And that's how we identify the male flower of the Luffa gourd. Now the female flowers will be less abundant on the plant. This one's obviously been pollinated, and a baby loofah is beginning to grow. Now here's a very good example of the female flower with the male flowers close by. You can see them right behind. Here's a small one, and you can actually eat the loofahs. We haven't tried it. When they're in the small size, about 4 to 6 inches in size, which this one's probably perfect for that. I should actually probably give that a try just to see what they're like. Here's more of those flower clusters getting ready to bloom, and it's just covered. Now the loofahs have grown amazing in the container garden. I'm curious, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That one's pretty tiny. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 loofahs in the August garden. They're doing amazing. Now once the loofahs turn brown, they're ready to harvest, and they're still a little bit moist. So I take them in the house, I let them continue to dry, and when they're ready, it's time for the next step. So come along, let's check out what's next. So now that the loofahs are dry, we're going to try to get as many of the seeds out as we can. Now this is a little bit hard, so I just do the best that I can. And from what I've read, it's easier to do it when they're still whole before you peel them. So we're going to try to get as many of them out as we can. Now this one, I really like the shape of it, so I don't want to cut this one. But you can hear that there are a lot of seeds in here left. Try to uncover that opening just a little bit. And I think I've gotten as many out of it as I can, so we're going to go ahead and start to peel off the outer shell. Now this has been drying for a few weeks. Now the skin peels off pretty easy. See, I can still hear a few seeds in there. And there it is, one loofah sponge. Now we just continue the process with the rest. Now if you notice, this one is quite a bit greener than the other. This one actually broke off. I didn't pick it, so I went ahead and just let it dry out. Now we can break open the end. So we can get out those seeds. And because this is so long and shaped, I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half and see if it's a little bit easier to get the seeds out. And it does not seem to be. Now this one seems to be a little bit more difficult to peel than the ones that had dried completely before picking. Now I noticed that when I squeeze this a little bit, the seeds are coming out. They're loosening up. There we go. It's amazing how many seeds are in here. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and do the same with this one. I'm going to go ahead and peel off that outer skin. Now you see this one is not peeling well at all. Kind of torn that up. It's very soft on the inside right here. So not near as good. Very soft right here, but not very good. Not very good right there. All right, I have one left. Now I have lots of seeds. Now I've only done four loofahs, and I have all these seeds. That's a lot of seeds. Pretty impressed with that. Now the last part is to whiten and sanitize the loofahs, and we do that by just putting them into a bleach water solution. Now this is diluted 1 part bleach to 10 parts water, and they're just going to stay in here for about 5 minutes. You can also sanitize your loofahs in the microwave by microwaving them for 2 minutes. You want to make sure that the loofah is wet when you put it into the microwave, otherwise the microwave can damage the loofah fibers. So we're going to let these set, and then we will rinse them out and let them dry. These have been soaking and they're ready to rinse. They really whiten up beautifully. That's it. Now these will dry and we can use them as we would use any sponge. You can use them in the kitchen, you can use them in the shower, however you'd want to use a sponge. I'm kind of excited to try it out. So the loofahs are dried, and I did bleach them to give them a nice clean color. Now this is one of the little scrap pieces, which is why it's so small, and I thought I would see how it washes. So I'm going to warm up the water here a little bit. Now my sponge is nice and wet. Put a little bit of cleanser on it. Kind of foam that up a little bit. And now we're going to wash. honestly a little rougher than I'm used to. You know, with synthetic loofah. It's definitely good for exfoliating. Skin's gonna feel nice and fresh once it's finished. Now you can definitely feel the smoothness of the skin from being exfoliated really nicely. So I actually kind of like that. I'll finish with some moisturizer and I'll be good to go. We hope you've enjoyed this video and we really appreciate you watching. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, be sure to hit that button and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate you helping us get to our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.